Hello, this is a tutorial on how I connect the Digitakt to FL Studio so I can use the FL Studio's piano roll and VSTs, but also use the Digitakt's hardware. The first thing we have to do is set things up. So in FL Studio, I like to have the Digitakt on channel 1. So on channel 1, set the inputs to main left and main right. And let's see, before I do anything, let's make sure I'm recording. So we have Edison, record. Yeah, it seems okay. So now we can hear the Digitakt on track 1, but I can also hear the Digitakt on my headphones, so I'm hearing it twice. Once from the Digitakt itself and once from FL Studio. And we can fix that by going into Settings, System Settings, USB config, and then turn into main off and USB to main. You can increase that so that you don't have to turn this volume knob all the way up. You can just have it at the normal levels and increase it from here instead. So right now, let me double check. Yep, I'm hearing FL Studio's sound, but not the Digitakt. And before I continue, I'll just add Maximus and set the preset to transparent. Yep, still recording, that's good. Also recording here. And yeah, so another thing we have to do is we have to set up the MIDI config on the Digitakt. So go into MIDI config and then sync, and then enable clock send and program change send. FL Studio won't receive the clock, but when we have clock send enabled, when we hit play, it will also play inside FL Studio. And the other thing we have to fix is in MIDI config, go to channels, and then disable the MIDI for tracks 1 to 8, these tracks, and enable them for these tracks, which are tracks A to H. So turn these off, and then turn these on. And I think we're ready to go. So what I like to do is I have a MIDI out in FL Studio, and it's going to send MIDI to track 9, which is this channel or this track. And track 9 is going to be set to channel 1, and it's going to play this synth, which is locked to the Digitakt's channel 1. So it's like a chain going from the MIDI out into the Digitakt and from the Digitakt back to FL Studio to play the synth. So let's set that up first. So in FL Studio we have we're going to have a MIDI out, and we have to set the port to the same port as the Digitakt. So if we go to MIDI settings, we can see that the Electron overbridge is set to port 0, and input is set to 1. It doesn't really matter what this one is. This is important, the output one. So port 0, MIDI channel 1, and if we go into the piano roll, this should make this track blink, which it does, and that's good. And the next thing is to add a synth. I'll add OBXD. It's a free synth. I really like it. It's a virtual analog synth. And if we set this one to receive notes from Electron over Bridge channel 1, and in the Digitakt we set the channel to 1, you can go to, if you select the track itself, track 9, and then go to source, and then press func and press the chan encoder, you can you enable it, and then you can select channel. So on channel 1 it'll play the OBXD, channel 2 and 3 it actually plays, oh yeah, it's selected in FL Studio. Now it won't play any of these, but on channel 1 it'll play it. So let's try this in MIDI out, the piano roll in MIDI out. Let's see if it works. Yep. Okay, so the next thing I set up, or like to set up, is a piano VST that is controlled by 2 tracks in on the Digitakt, and then we can set up 2 MIDI outs in FL Studio to write notes to the sequencer in the Digitakt. And the reason I want 2 of them is because I want one for each hand, so that I can sort of have both play at the same time, and then I can remove the lead and only play the chords, or I can remove the chords and only play the leads and drums. So yeah, I like to have 2 tracks, and these are going to be set to channel 2, and the piano synth, or VST, is going to be locked to the Digitakt's channel 2. Let's give that a try. So let's make a MIDI out and clone it, and then set this one to channel 2 and this one to channel 3. So if we go into piano roll, track 10 is going to blink, and it does. And if we take MIDI out 3 and go to piano roll, then track 11 is going to blink. Now let's add the piano. Still recording, that's good. So the piano, we're gonna lock it to MIDI track 1, MIDI track 2 I mean, channel 2. Now it's locked to channel 2, so if we press, yeah, we have to set these to channel 2. So select track 10, go to source page, press and hold func and chan, and then turn it to channel 2, and same with this one. Track 11, source page, hold func and chan, and then turn it to channel 2. Now they both play the piano VST, and if we go to piano roll on MIDI out 2, it's going to play the Digitakt's track 10, which is playing the piano VST. Same with the piano roll on MIDI out 3. It's going to play track 11 on the Digitakt, which is also playing the piano VST. So we have everything we need to start making something. I made a beat already at 80 BPM, so let's just turn the FL Studio's BPM down to 80, and then listen to this one. So let's try to make something with this beat. And I'll just start with something on the left hand for the piano part. And right now it's gonna sound very choppy. And I can fix that by having the sustain pedal always down. So on track, actually I'll do it on both of them, but on track 10, let's go to the filter page and enable this encoder, which is it's just sending CC signals. So we can go to the amp page and select which sort of CC signals it's sending. And CC64 is the sustain pedal. So if we turn this up, the sustain pedal will be pressed. And I like to do that on both channels. In case I mute one of them, then the other is gonna have a sustain pedal as well. So enable the first encoder on the filter page, go to amp page, and then have it set to sustain pedal 64. And if we listen back now, it'll sound like this. And I want to make it a bit more dynamic, so I'm gonna change the velocity to slowly increase and then slowly decrease again. That was a bit dramatic, so I just reduced it a bit, maybe a bit more. And let's make a lead. And do the same thing here with the volume. Let's see. Okay, so let's make a bass line. Let's change the sound first. Another thing we can do is on the synth track, the bass track, we can track 9 that is, we can enable a few of these CC or MIDI knobs, and we can assign them to cutoff, resonance, and envelope depth, and filter decay, and volume. I'll just start with this one. If you right click the volume for the synth and then link to controller and then turn the knob you want to control it with, it's automatically set. And you can't right click on a VST that you've downloaded. So instead you can use the knob up here, multi-link to controllers, and then just wiggle the controls you want to, or the parameters you want to control. Now I've selected cutoff, resonance, and envelope depth, and the decay. And now if I turn the knobs I want to control them with in that order, then we have now set these 4 encoders to control these 4 parameters. So let's check it out. And let's just change this sound so that it's a bit more bassy. I think that's fine. So let's continue on that bass line. I think that's fine. So now we have 3 tracks, 1 bass line, which is on track 9, and 2 piano lines on track 10 and 11. So now that we have those, let's record them. So I like to record in quantized mode, and to enable quantized mode you have to hit record and play twice. Once to start recording, and then again to select quantized live recording mode. And now that we have those, have that set up, we can enable the MIDI outs again and then start recording. It should line up very nicely. So if we go into, let's try this, let's disable these, and if we disable everything and hit play, nothing happens. But if we enable these, it's recorded onto the Digitakt. So let's clean up a bit. Actually, let's fix one thing. The bass line, it's monophonic, and it's going to glide to the next note if they are overlapping, and I set this project to have a bit of swing. So some of the notes are going to overlap. So what we can do is select all the notes, shorten them a bit, and instead of having long notes, we can make them trail off instead by just increasing the amplifier release and filter release. So let's clear this track, track 9. Now we don't have track 9, so we only have the piano tracks. So we can record the bass line again. Enable this one, and then hit record and play. I think that's it. Let's disable the bass line, the MIDI out, and then listen to the bass line. Yeah, so that was the basics, and yeah, we can do one more thing. We can let's see, is it still recording? Yeah, that's good. One thing we can do now is make a B section. So let's I made a copy of pattern 1, and then let's make changes to pattern 2 in FL Studio. And let's also select pattern 1 on the Digitakt, copy it, and then paste it to track 2 or pattern 2, and then save. And now we have 2 patterns, and on pattern 2 let's clear these 3 because we're gonna re-record them. So go into track 9 and grid edit mode or record mode, and then function clear, and then select track 10 and function clear, track 11 function clear. Now we only have the drums. So for pattern 2, let's make some changes. I think I like this. really cheesy, but let's just go for it. So live record, hold record, press play. And disable the MIDI outs, and then let's see how it sounds. Okay, so now we have two patterns, and we can switch between them, and we can mute individual tracks. And one last thing I want to do is I like to have track 2 set to hi-hats only. Yeah, it's still recording, that's good. So I'll copy track 1, drag and copy to copy the track, and then select track 2, paste it. I think I already had it pasted, but let's do it again. And then set the trig length to almost 2, but not quite. And then, oh, it already has. Yeah, okay, that's what happened. We're going a bit off topic, but I only want the hi-hats to be 16 steps long, but I want the rest of them to be 64 steps. So what we can do is go into Func, press Func in Page to go into pattern length, or set the pattern length. And if you press Func and yes, we can select the pattern's length and the track's length individually. So let's select 16 steps. And now we have some hi-hats, and I want to make another version so that when I press page, it'll play twice as fast. So let's copy these trigs and then paste them in here. Make these trigs shorter, lower the overdrive, basically lowering the volume, and then let's see. Maybe a bit longer. And a bit softer. Yeah, that's good. So now that these are how I want them to sound, we can go into the trig page, press the condition encoder, and it'll set them to fill. So let's copy these 4 trigs and then paste them down here. And if we press play and then hit page, it'll play twice as fast. And I like to do that for switching up the drums a bit, like. Yeah, we only did the hi-hat thing for track 1, so let's select the track, copy it, go to pattern 2, and then paste it to track 2. So now we have pasted the sound. Let's go back to track 1, select track 2, go into edit mode, and then disable mute mode, and then copy the entire pattern, go into pattern 2, and paste pattern, or paste track, or sequence. And same here, we have to set the length to 16 for this specific track, while all the rest are still 64. So yeah, now we have basically a full song. This is how I make my songs. And yeah, I think the tutorial ended a long time ago. If you have any questions, just ask in the comments. And thanks for watching. Bye.